Hey friends, Monodux here with a little patch for you today. For you 2600 users out there. This is going to be a tri-saw patch with a little bit of sort of sequenced, a mod sequence running in the background. I'll show you how to do this as a playable patch, keyboard patch. We'll see if we can rebuild this from scratch. Okay, so starting from the beginning, I'm going to be using all three oscillators with saw waves. And since I'm going to be doing some different routing from what's under the hood with the 2600, I'm going to actually patch all of those out. So you'll see how that happens in a moment. But the main feature of this patch, since I want it to be rhythmic, and I'm going to actually be playing the notes on the keyboard, but what I'm not going to be playing is what the filter does. I want that to be rhythmic, and I want it to be random at the same time. So what I'm going to do is take the sample and hold and clock it to the LFO, so that what I'm doing with the keyboard is providing the clock for the sample and hold that does drive the filter modulation. So first thing I'm going to do is send the clock from the LFO over to the sample and hold. So we'll do that now. And I'm just going to use a square wave for my clock source. And I'm sending that over to the external clock in on my sample and hold. So that's my clock signal there. And then from there, the sample and hold is pretty normal. That's going to be modulating my filter. I don't have to think about it a whole lot more now because it's going to operate in time with my LFO. So I can send it straight where I would normally send it. So instead of my keyboard CV, I'm just going to send it straight into a control input on the filter. I've left my sliders where they were just for simplicity. So that one's about halfway up, and that's going to control the filter frequency. It's a frequency modulator, and that's going to control the frequency cutoff. Those are going to be random, but they're going to happen in a timely fashion because of the LFO clock that we're getting. All right, so that's the timing of the sequence coming from the LFO. Now, the thing that I like to do with my saw waves is give them a little bit of distortion before I run into the filter. So I'm going to do some mixing. And I recently learned that the mult works for both audio and control signals. And I'm going to put a link into the video description to the video where I learned that. And pardon me for blanking. I totally forgot the YouTuber's name that posted that. But I'll put a link to his video so you can check it out as well. It's embedded with a bunch of other great information about the voltage processing unit. So we're going to use that for a mixer today and get our three saw waves into that. All right, so I've got three saw waves running into my mult, which means whatever I take out of that is going to sum up everything else that I put into it. So here's where I'm going to get my distortion. I'm going to run the last plug of my mult into my preamp over here. I've done this before on the channel. I do like that distortion running into the filter. It sounds really sweet. So that's what we're going to do now. Running into the input, I have pushed it up to a range of 1000 and pretty close to the max. So I'm just going to get my distortion here. All three of my saw waves from my oscillators are running into this one line. And since I have all of them running in, I'm going to take that one output and just run it into one line into my filter. And they are all coming in one line now. So by default, the 2600, well, I won't say by default, but very often we're running with the AR envelope. I like things a little bit more plucky, so I'm going to use my ADSR envelope, and I like it a little bit more plucky, not like 100% plucky. So I'm going to take the output of that envelope, and I'm going to run that into the linear control rather than the exponential. So it's not going to be super plucky, it's going to be kind of plucky. So I have a little bit of time to work with. And that'll give me a nice kind of plucky, but not like instantaneous kind of cut off sound. And if I look at my table, I'm out of chords, so hopefully I didn't do anything wrong. Let's press a key and see what it does. Success. So we got back there. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. You can make your modulation more extreme. So if you take the sample and hold modulation of your filter all the way up, that will make those modulations really extreme. Or if you take it back down to where I was about halfway and turn your resonance all the way up, you can get really big deep basses and squelches. Now I'm doing this with a keyboard. Something that I don't remember is there sometimes is that we've got all these keyboard controls over here. So one of the things that's making this fire is the fact that I've got the repeat switched up to keyboard. So if that wasn't on, I forgot to mention that, if that wasn't on, this wouldn't be doing any of this. So if I turn it off, that's all you get, just one, very, very short. So turn the keyboard on if you want this. And if you want to, not stand here and hold a button, you can turn that keyboard switch all the way down to auto, and it'll hold whatever pitch you gave it last time, and then it's hands-free. I'll turn it back to keyboard now. So now if you really want to just kind of drone with it, you can always take this approach too and turn your initial gain up. This does make things much more drony though, and it takes away the attack altogether. And you can feed it pitches, and it will continue to work with the pitches that you fed it from your keyboard or whatever. Anyway, pretty cool. So I can hear you asking, because this is clocked to itself. What if I want to clock this to something else? How would that work? It's pretty simple. Pretty simple indeed. Let me show you how to do it. So if I want to clock this mod sequence to external gear, what I'm going to need is an additional mult. and an additional clock source. So what I'm going to do is use one of these cheap. I have like a little $6-7 mult that I bought on Amazon, and I'm going to use my Roland TR-06 drum machine as a clock source, and I'm just going to use the accent part out to drive a clock source, which I'm going to split, and I'll show you how I connect that. So I'm taking my accent part out. That goes into the mult. And from there, I'm going to take one line out, and I'm going to replace the LFO clock source, which was plugged into the external clock in on the sample and hold. So now that's coming from the TR-06. And because I also want the notes to be played in time, or think of it as being heard in time, because we're not repeating the keyboard anymore, right? We're opening the gate to let the sound through. So what I'm going to do is open the gate in time with the drum machine playing. So I'm going to take another extension of that mult from the drum machine and send it into my gate. And actually, this is the gate that I'm going to use, so I'm going to send it into that gate. Or actually, no, I'll send it in to this one. So I'm going to take my sample and hold clock and switch down to the sample and hold clock. So now I've got my gate running into that from the drum machine. I've got my clock running into sample and hold. It's not doing anything because I haven't started the drum machine. I don't really need the keyboard repeat on because it's not doing this anymore. Let's give this a shot. There we go. Now we're in time. All right, so I hope that helps you have some more fun with your 2600. Enjoy your patching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you don't happen to have a 2600, I have something in mind for you, so stick around. See you soon.